Aging out is kind of, I guess, a title for what happens to foster care teens when they basically age out. And when they turn 17, they are kind of given some help to prepare them for when they turn 18. When they turn 18, they kind of age out of the system, which means they no longer receive services, they don't have a place to really live anymore. A lot of them don't have those relationships that basically they've been around for their entire adolescence. And then they're kind of expected to be adults.
The cost of keeping a kid in the foster care system with good support, so that they're getting the counseling, they're getting the additional education they need, they're getting the resources they need, and carrying them through an aging out program for a few years so that they develop the adult skills. So these kids are emotionally delayed, they're socially delayed, even if they're mentally doing pretty well. They need additional time and additional support to get to be able to function independently in many, many cases. Investing the resources it takes to sustain that program is a whole lot cheaper than spending money dealing with that young adult, now out, not able to cope, getting into trouble with the law and being in jail. The cost of keeping that young person in jail for the year as opposed to an aging out program, there's no comparison. The jail expense is much greater. And there is hope that if we do these kinds of programs to help them transition into independent adulthood, and maybe give them a sense of community. Some of these programs build community among the aging out group so that they get together for Thanksgiving. Those kinds of things. Those are much more likely to be successful.
Right.
And that means instead of being a burden on the tax rolls, they're paying taxes, and they're not going to be in trouble. No guarantees. Especially the kids who are in foster care a long time, who never get placed permanently. No guarantees. The odds are not necessarily particularly good, but programs like that help with the aging out process can succeed, and a success means a saved life, and more crassly, saved tax dollars, and another tax-paying citizen contributing to the rolls. Say this: one of the things I think we need to be worrying about in Florida is that Florida this year, this budget cycle that we're in right now, this budget year, the legislature, in its wisdom, slashed the funding for subsidies for adoption. These kids demand more services and put a greater strain on the family. Well worth putting the investment in doing that, but those are realities.
Right.
So a family that brings one of these, especially older kids, out of the foster care system is going to need support services. They're going to need respite care, so mom and dad and maybe the other kids in the household even can have just some time for them going through some of the rocky periods. They're going to need alternative health care resources. They're going to need mental health care resources. They're going to need additional educational resources, all of which cost money. And it's in the state's interest to invest that money here, because then that kid doesn't end up in jail later on. For the kids who age out, the young adults who age out of the system, out of the foster care system, there's the severing of relationships to a larger society began at whatever point they entered into foster care, and they became different. And if that never changes, when they age out, they don't have family to fall back on. They don't have those folks there for them. And it's a profoundly lonely and troubling situation to be in. Even for a kid who's very strong and very capable, it's a very, very painful situation to be in. And even to try to think about what it feels like to them is hard. But certainly until you've seen it, it's very hard to appreciate how much these kids need from us just to make it work.